Welcome to another pre-show. Gather round, all you patrons.
If you can manage, you see, they're shuffling. And you know why they're shuffling? Because they're filled with turkey.
That's for sure.
They are slowly waddling in and laying their big burdens down. Well, we hope you fed as well as we did. And if you didn't, I can just say one thing.
What?
Brenda and Eddie were the popular steadies, the king and the queen of the prom. Well,
okay.
somehow we always knew Brenda and Eddie would survive. They lived off Thanksgiving dinners.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either. I just threw it out there. No, seriously, folks, you've had your fill. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade was disrupted by Palestinian protesters.
Really?
Yes, isn't that nice? So we'll see if they manage to do something similar with the Hollywood Christmas Parade on Sunday.
The Hollywood Christmas Parade is already on Sunday?
Yeah, the Santa Claus Day Parade. And I think the Doodah Parade in Pasadena is also on Sunday.
Huh.
Maybe it's Saturday night that they have the Santa Claus Parade. The Santa Claus Day Parade, the Hollywood Christmas Parade. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. The point is that with these various parades and Santa arriving at the end, you know what this means?
What?
This is Christmas creep season.
Like creep how?
Well, I don't mean creep as in the people we've so often run into in our lives. No, I don't mean that kind of creep. I mean, slowly, Christmas has crept backward. It used to be when I was a kid that there were no Christmas decorations or anything else until long after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Then, and Thanksgiving itself, this weekend with the parades and Santa arriving and all that, that was the beginning of the Christmas shopping season. Prior to that, there was absolutely nothing. Everything between Halloween and Thanksgiving was about Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
In the stores and everything. And then, of course, for the latter half of October, that was when you had Halloween coming out as the big deal. Today, the first Halloween stuff goes up in the last week of July. It's all there August. It competes with back to school stuff in September. All through October. Then the Halloween stuff goes bye-bye. And then the Christmas stuff comes up. Although, in some places, the Christmas stuff goes up in October. So you have this, in a few stores, you have this weird Nightmare Before Christmas thing with the Christmas stuff on one aisle and the Halloween stuff on the other.
Yeah.
So Halloween passes. Thanksgiving, outside of supermarkets where they have turkeys to sell, Thanksgiving sort of gets forgotten. The Christmas stuff gets more and more and more. From now, the original beginning of the Christmas shopping season until Christmas itself, it will be non-stop. In fact, many radio stations will begin tomorrow, I believe, because let's see, the 27th is Monday, 26th is, so tomorrow, month-long holiday music. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. In the frosty air, it's
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah. No, those are all good. It's when it gets into the weird. There's some weird ones. What's the romantic Christmas one?
Last Christmas, I blew out my brains.
No.
No?
Yeah, I'll give it to someone special. There we go.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special.
I don't like that one.
Oh, you don't like that one?
No.
Oh, I love it. I think it's just great. Last Christmas, I blew out my brains, and yeah, that's really annoying. And but you know the one that banned.
Probably. I think I have a good feel on this. Baby, it's cold outside.
Yes. Ooh.
Yeah, there's all the. I saw the comments on the video once upon a time. There was all this rape talk.
Oh, no, I really must go. As if Dean Martin were capable of raping anybody. You've drunk as much as Dean did. Never mind. Anyway, the point is that it's just funny what people get excited about now.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it is funny because we kind of tried to watch a little of the Video Music Awards because my wife's a Swiftie, Taylor Swift, and I don't watch it, ladies and gentlemen. Just don't watch it at all. I couldn't watch it.
But Baby, It's Cold Outside is terrible.
No, it's just the VMAs were just practically straight up pornographic, and if you weren't pornographic, you stood out. You stood out in a weird way.
A weird way. Well, if it makes you any better, and you feel any better, I can guess the next song will be banned.
Really? I saw I saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus?
No, although that's a good candidate.
Okay, what?
Santa Baby.
I thought... Well, really? I thought that's like this one of these modern ones.
Well, so was Baby It's Cold Outside. But Santa Baby, I mean, she's dependent on a man for goodies. It's all about a good time girl asking Santa for the kind of goodies she would get from men. It's basically Holly Golightly's Christmas list. So, good, strong women don't need men to give them gifts like that.
Are we really at that level, though, where that's going to get canceled on that basis?
I wouldn't be surprised. I'd make it a wager. I can't promise, but I'd make a bet. Santa baby, come whistle down my chimney tonight.
That'll be interesting. I don't...
Now, the fact that Eartha Kitt was black might buy it some protection, because they're allowed to sing songs that other people aren't. I mean, you can never get away with slapping the bitches and hoes in white music.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't.
Yeah.
Could you imagine what's a big band today?
A big band today? I mean...
Are the Killers so big?
Okay, you can go with the Killers. Sure.
All right. What if they sang a song about slapping that bitch?
They would be done.
Oh, God. Although I can't imagine what's-his-face, the lead singer, singing that.
Yeah.
He's too much of a Mormon.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he comes across as a nice guy, and I think he would have trouble singing lyrics like that.
Yeah. Which one of your nieces or nephews are you sort of getting this from? I mean, this is like Taylor Swift, Blood Elf, World of Warcraft knowledge.
That was Albert, yeah.
So
protected only by her hotness. And it didn't do her much good.
So was this Albert too with the Killers? This Killers stuff? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was listening to them for a while.
Okay.
There was another band that was very bizarre. Well, they're about 10 years ago now. The Hives. They're Swedish. It's I really, except for what my nephews and nieces forced me to listen to and watch, I really don't pay attention anymore at all.
I don't either, actually. I mean, the most I know is when I'm at work, other job, not Tumblr Tower, but
here we have a combination of Glenn Miller and Bach.
No, I mean, we always have this light sort of music in the background. It's kind of for privacy reasons a little bit. So otherwise, the whole office can basically hear the whole office whenever someone's talking. But yeah, that's the only way I'm in touch with. Well, that and Taylor Swift, obviously.
I'm not in touch with Taylor Swift. How is she?
She's. I mean, this is the pinnacle of her career. Actually, I mean, there's
Yeah.
no. You can't go any higher.
She was good thing. Kind of a rough patch a month ago. What happened with that?
Well, you see, you actually don't even know anything.
Yeah,
You actually don't even know
like
anything.
that makes a difference.
I mean, like, well, I mean, she's so prolific and you can hear things everywhere, but I don't even, and I thought for a second you might have be like responding to perhaps like a newspaper on the checkout line or like somewhere on your Twitter
No,
feed
I
or
just
something.
threw that out
But
there.
that was so far afield that I was
I
like,
just
not
threw it
even
out.
that.
I have no
Not even
idea.
that.
I have no bloody idea what she's up to. But what's she going through that rough patch about a month ago? It sounds.
That was.
It sounded like it made sense. I don't know. I mean, I stay awake. I stay awake pondering these things all night.
That's such a good sort of fishing line. That's one of those lines where you can.
Well, I was hoping you drop something on the anchor there, and let me another deal, but no. Oh, you don't know anything about her, do you? Guilty as charged. But I'm sorry to say the only Swiftie I ever knew was a legendary Hollywood mega agent named Swifty Lazar.
I think I've heard of him.
You might well have done.
Yeah.
He was very famous in his day.
Yeah.
I finally got an invitation to his A-list Oscar party, and he died.
At the party?
No, before the
Oh.
party, so I never went.
Oh, wow.
You see, it's like when Sheriff Baca named me a friend of Lee, and I had the pin for two weeks, and then he resigned and was indicted. See, I always come late to the party, ladies and gentlemen. That's the problem.
That's true. Well,
I remember when the Southern California book publicists, the book publicists of Southern California, threw a Christmas party. Now, this is 30 years ago today, but their entertainer was a comedian who you've never heard of, was famous in my day, called Stan Freberg.
okay.
Now, Stan Freberg, despite his name, was not Jewish, but Swedish. And he had this big Swedish fro, this blonde fro on his head. He's a very funny guy, very, very funny. But doubtless to take advantage of the free lunch, he brought his teenage son along. And what impressed me was that the son laughed as hard at his father's jokes as the rest of us did.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That's pretty cool.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so. So, I mean, that was my only personal encounter with Stan Freberg, but
Wow.
I was very impressed.
Good. All right, let's do some questions, shall we?
All right.
Nick says, hello, Vincent Charles. I'm discerning a potential career change and wanted to ask a question related to usury. Do you believe a Catholic can illicitly work as a commercial lender for a relatively small and local bank, or would this be participating or cooperating in the sin of usury? Specifically, this would be a bank in position dealing primarily with loans to businesses, with some occasional mortgage loans as well. But the bank does not offer credit cards or consumer loans. Do you take the hardline stance that charging any interest only any loan for any purpose is definitely usury, or do you think that the evolution of economics and money has created circumstances such that charging interest is not always usurious? I've heard some argue that funding consumption rather than investment wealth generation is what makes a loan with interest usurious. And Belloc saw interest on business loans as effectively profit sharing rather than usury. However, some traditionalists online strongly believe any interest on a loan is always usury, and it seems the church did teach this for a long time, but has been less clear in the modern era. What should a Catholic consider when discerning this type of career choice?
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually a good question in the sense that it's the kind of question that comes up all the time. I have to agree with Bellick. I've got to agree with a lot of other people, however. The church itself, in order to stimulate the economy of medieval Europe, introduced her own loaning houses, the mons pietati. And they did not consider usury to be anything over, I think, 3 or 4%, something like that. I forget. We live in a society that is based upon usury. It's based upon credit and inflation. It's not just to. I mean, if you and I do it, it's called writing bad checks. If the government do it, it's called increasing the money supply. As I'm told, every time I've ever written a rubber check, and they've complained to me, I've said, well, if you didn't cash it in, you wouldn't have this problem. What you should do is do what the government does and just pass it on as payment to the next person, rather than cashing it in. What would happen if everybody took the paper money in their wallets and went to the nearest Federal Reserve Bank and cashed it in?
I don't think there's a lot of money in people's wallets anymore.
But we'll have to show that, but let's pretend.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously the banks would crash because the amount they're allowed to loan is based on a multiple of the deposits in the bank. So if there's like $1 million, they can lend out 10 million. So if everybody takes in the money, that would actually crash like everything.
Right. So what does it mean? It means we are all living off a system of bad checks. And God forbid any of us should ever cash one of them in, or the whole thing would flop. No, I mean, we live in such a weird and artificial economy that it bears virtually no relationship to that about which the Church Fathers wrote. Now, mind you, there are things that are definitely usurious. They're definitely the basis of our economy is immoral. But that's not something you or I can do anything about. I mean, when you pay your taxes, you're funding abortions and birth control overseas and again in America. You're also, supporting a military who have same-sex marriages in military chapels. Where do you stop? Where do you stop the line? Where do you draw the line? The other thing I notice is that people who tend to demand perfection from others do not exhibit it themselves. So my question is, for all our friends who are online Catholic podcasters, if you believe that any charge you interest in any amount is usury, and that if our friend does what he's contemplating doing, he's guilty of being a usurer, do you have bank accounts? Do you have credit cards? Do you have debit cards? Did you buy your house on credit? Do you use credit at all? Or do you keep all your money in a coffee can somewhere in the basement? That would be my advice to you if you want to escape usury entirely. If not, then on the one hand, we're all guilty of it. On the other hand, it is modified by the fact that it's very hard to eat if you don't participate in the usurious economy to some degree. Yeah. Not that eating should be that important. You should be willing, for the sake of the kingdom, to fast continually. Excuse me, I'm being admirable.
I understand. There you go.
I thought you didn't really catch on to my admirability.
Impressive. We're all very impressed.
Oh, thank you. I feel much better now.
I guess I'll give my 2 cents. These business questions always get me, and I don't know if I can always
That's
moderate.
You're an oppressor of the working classes.
I am. I would say two things. Number one, based on the new calendar, last week we had the well, everyone who goes to church last Sunday, at least in the based on the new calendar, we got the parable of the steward who gave money to each of his servants, right? 5 talents to one, two to the other, and one to the least trustworthy. Um, Obviously, we know how the parable goes. I don't need to say the whole thing.
Why not?
But in the parable, the steward says that to the one who he gave 1 talent to, buried it in the dirt, did nothing with it, took it out of the dirt, and the steward says, "You didn't even put it in the money to get interest."
Yeah.
So I feel like there is usury. There are levels, but the hard line thing just doesn't fly. I'd like to see what people say about that, the parable. I mean, secondly, why the hard line doesn't fly. I mean, if you just apply practical situations and if you actually just live in this world and you're making financial decisions, you're going to see it's ridiculous, kind of. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you had some excess money, right? And you're looking where to put it. Let's say you're putting it in bonds. Let's say you're putting in 30-year treasury bonds and you get something like 3% last year, right? Or something like that. You get 3%. Oh, is that usury? Ooh, are you getting interest? Well, these hardliners, I guess, would tell you yes. Except inflation was 10%, so you actually lost 7% of real purchasing power, and then groceries prices skyrocketed. A lot of people's rent increased 10%, especially in California, because laws of rent increases relate to inflation. So you got 3%, but then you're getting absolutely screwed over on literally every level. But then you sinned.
Well, yeah.
So, right?
And so you're being punished.
Yeah. So you have every right to invest wisely. In
moral investments.
In moral investments.
But let's not forget that great singer who would have agreed with you entirely.
Billy Joel?
No. This is the man who sang, "This diamond ring doesn't mean what it used to mean, and this diamond ring." Gary U.S. Bonds.
There we go.
See, he would have agreed.
So yeah,
Sister Soya.
Oh, okay.
You said Soya.
So yeah.
So I said Sister Soya.
Yeah. And by the way, on Belloc thing, I mean, I basically agree with Belloc, because, like, even when you have a business or something, there are two methods of financing. You could issue shares. You could, do some profit sharing and say, here, have 25-50% of the company, but we need a cash injection, or you could get the cash injection with loans. So
yeah, very true.
Okay, French guy number 1 says, salutations to the president and CEO who takes in the dough. That's me.
Absolutely, yeah.
The maestro who presents both show and pre-show. The guardian of the door to the 13th floor, Vincent. And, of course, the immigrant who is once again a U.S. resident, the Grand Vizier, who makes Mondays easier.
Ooh.
The Californian master historian, Charles. Wow, French guy, you're still at it. I thought the well would have run dry by now, but
no,
you are.
The poetic muse is strong in the French race.
Oh. So he says, I have a few questions, which I hope the recent returnee will graciously answer. Firstly, I recently saw an interview with Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi and was in awe afterwards. He is quite possibly one of the most articulate and intelligent people I've seen interviewed. It is evident that he genuinely loves his country and wants to see it liberated from the dictatorial rule of the Ayatollahs. Until this interview, the monarchies of the East had not particularly interested me, as very few, if any, were or are Catholic. Yeah. However, Crown Prince Reza's interview changed all of that. While ideally a monarchy should be in service of the faith, Surely a Shah would be better than what is currently in place. What does Charles know of the Pahlavi dynasty, and would he be in favor of its restoration?
Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. Now, this is a good question. The answer is I remember very well when the Shah was running Iran. And Iran was a modern country and a staunch U.S. ally.
Wow.
It was a decent place to live. But if we. It was under President Carter, the king of stupid, who, as Richard Nixon put it so well, greased the skids for the Shah. He was the one who cut off the Ayatollah Khomeini's allowance, thus forcing him to move back to Iran and foment the gift that keeps on giving, the Iranian Revolution. That was a direct result of Jimmy Carter, the stupid man. You know, the mouth man.
In the age of apologies, I think
He was such a boob. And mind you, my deepest condolences, Mr. President, on the recent loss of your wife, Rosalind. That having been said, what a moron. But, to give him credit, Billy Clinton, pond scum, as a friend of mine from Arkansas used to call him, he made Carter look good. Because twice the Clinton was going to go to war with either or both Haiti or North Korea. And in both places, the moron Carter went there and grabbed peace from the jaws of war. And Clinton was not happy with either. But it didn't matter, so he didn't get to show himself as a commander-in-chief. You know, anyhow, one loser after another.
you know that inspires me to ask. This is a really hard question. Actually, I don't even know if you can answer this question because you're going to have to really do a deep dive, and there's so many possibilities. But who would you say are the stupidest U.S. politicians of the 20th and 21st century? Top five. Top five.
Wow. 5. Woodrow Wilson, FDR, or is it 20th and 21st?
Both.
Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton.
Really? Bill Clinton. The last president who balanced the budget.
Yes. The Butcher of Belgrade.
Is that his title?
Yeah. And Mr. Bush Sr.
Really?
Now, mind you.
Wait, okay, stop. Just stop. So, part of it, so Biden and Obama are in this list.
Well, yeah. Biden, if only because he's, senile. And Obama, if only because he was a moron who was full of himself.
No, what I'm saying is you're still going to put Bush Sr.
Yeah.
and Clinton above them.
Yeah. Well, maybe not Clinton, but certainly Bush Sr. Because he basically laid the seeds. His mishandling of Russia, Romania, Bulgaria, and Yugoslavia's breakup basically gave us the seeds of the trouble we have now.
Wow.
I mean, if he had followed his own team's recommendations, look, he was handed the biggest foreign policy opportunity any American president has had since 1918. And it was even a bigger one, because the Soviet Union fell on his watch.
Okay.
Now, the smart thing to do, had he been smart, not an idiot, as he himself always said, he suffered from a lack of the vision thing.
What? Okay.
He said that. I didn't. I've always suffered from a lack of the vision thing. Well, that was for sure. What he should have done when we had, what's this? Before Putin, gosh, again, it was there. I can see him dancing drunkenly.
Yeah, Yeltsin?
Yeltsin. What he should have done was offered Russia and Eastern Europe a Marshall Plan. And he shouldn't have either invited Russia to join NATO or gotten out of it. The chance at the time to create in Russia a friendly to the U.S. government that was stable,
Yeah.
he muffed it. Now we'll set aside his vetoing restorations of the monarchy in Bulgaria and Romania, but it was just as stupid, for the deep depth of stupid. So anyway,
Wow.
I mean, we would not be in the position we're in now had he done his job properly.
All right. Secondly, my research into the Pahlavis also led me to research a bit about the religious makeup of Iran. I heard somewhere that during the COVID pandemic, around 500,000 Iranians converted to Christianity in one form or another. What does Charles know of the state of the Catholic Church in Iran and its history?
Well, at the moment, most Iranian Catholics belong to one or another of the Eastern rites, Chaldean, Armenian, and Syriac. There are very few Latin Rite Christians, and our own Vicariate Apostolic of Isfahan. The exotic East.
Yeah.
The garlic smells, all that kind of thing. Doesn't that excite you?
The garlic smells?
Yeah.
No.
Fine.
Dude, I'm Italian. We've got, I've got the garlic in my life.
All right, fine. Well, the church in Persia, of course, became Nestorian en masse with the help of the Persian government in the wake of the Council of Ephesus. But they didn't stay in Iran. The Nestorian church expanded all the way through the Silk Route to China. So that was the first big infusion. Then in the 1500s, Jesuits began making their way to Iran, and that was the start of the Latin Rite there. And then Armenian and Chaldean colonies formed in the northwest of the country, far northwest. So that, in a nutshell, is the history of the faith in Iran. It was favored under the Shah Reza Pahlavi, who was, like most of these Middle Eastern monarchs, was favorable toward Christian institutions as forces for stability. That was the way it was with the Shah, with the king of Iraq, the king of Egypt, and so on. So,
what's the math on that, though? I don't understand. As forces of stability.
Yeah. Well, remember, they inherit largely illiterate populations. They want them to learn to read and write as quickly as possible. Well, what do? You call it the Catholic Church.
No one else knows how to read or write?
No one else has that big a network of educational institutions.
Also in that language, too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. All right, last question for the pre-show. As I was ruminating on monarchism.
Ruminating. So, all right, go ahead.
In general, it struck me that I have never found a sort of monarchist manifesto. A simple and short book which outlines the philosophy and goals of monarchism, as well as a method of implementation. Could Charles recommend any suggestions? Thanks and welcome home.
Thank you. Why, yes, I could. It's called Star Spangled Crown, and it's for sale here at Tumbler House. But if you get it, be sure to go to the website and get the extended bibliography.
That's right. That's true, actually.
It is true. And read every book in there, and I guarantee you it'll be a walking encyclopedia of this stuff. Now, I do want to mention something I didn't really address in your other talk, in your other question, earlier question. Non-Catholic monarchies.
Okay.
Uh, Obviously, they're always better than the alternative. I mean, I have never yet seen a non-Catholic monarchy replaced with anything better. Whether it be Kaiser Wilhelm's thing in 1918, the Russian monarchy, and now we're just talking about Christian monarchies.
Yeah.
But even with pagan monarchies that I would not want to have lived under, like the Ottoman Sultan or the Manchu Emperor in China,
Yeah.
they're still better than what replaced them.
Is there a single philosophy and goal of monarchism?
No, that's the other problem.
Is that different from democracy? Is there a single goal of democracy, you could argue?
Yes and no. Democracy, the difference is that with monarchy, there are certain similarities that all monarchists accept, or most. The vast majority would accept that the monarch in some way has to plug in to whatever that society considers the divine. Somehow, he's got to be king by grace of God or the gods or whatever. If he doesn't have that, he has nothing. Whereas republics are based either on the will of the people, which is whatever you're told it is by the people who own the people, or it's by some strongman who forces his way into power and then lets you know what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. You got to pay the price. You got to sacrifice for your liberty. And that's why Oscar Wilde declared that the real definition of democracy was the bludgeoning of the people by the people for the people. Good and hard. But wait, there's more. And that is where I really have to give credit to us moderns. I really do. Because both Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas declared that there were two kinds. There was good government and bad government, three kinds of each.
Yeah.
And the three kinds of good government had evil shadows.
Yes.
Monarchy, dictatorship, or tyranny.
Oh, right. There's a shadow.
Yeah. Aristocracy, oligarchy. And then what they called polity, which meant basically rule by the majority of stakeholders, landowners, military veterans, whatever you like, versus democracy, which was simply counting snouts and having the majority. Well, they then declared that the best kind of government was one that combined monarchy, aristocracy, and polity, which for them meant a sort of government like they had in the Middle Ages. You had the king, the estates, which were made up of the nobles and the commoners.
Yeah.
And this they considered the mixed form of government to be the best kind of government because it's made up of the three good governments that has all their advantages. What they never figured out, but what we have done, what we beautiful moderns in our goodness and our greatness have created, is mixed government combining the three worst: tyranny, oligarchy, and democracy, all together in one delicious sewer of truth and love and stuff, especially stuff, lots of stuff. And that is what we're owned by now. Isn't that great?
Well,
yeah. I think it's wonderful. And so in the third, yeah, exactly. And so in the third world, when you have something like the king of Afghanistan being overthrown, the king of Iraq, the king of Egypt, the Shah of Iran, the emperor of Ethiopia, what you get is horror. Oh, but that's better because it's free. The other thing, too, is that monarchy, there are certain basic things that all monarchies have in common. Primarily, usually a hereditary rulership. But if it's not hereditary, if it's an elective monarchy, they're generally elected from particular families or groups.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the Holy See is an elected monarchy. But unless some of the elderly non-binaries who are yapping there right now want, uh, the Pope was elected from a college of cardinals,
Yeah.
and these are specific group. The Doges of Venice could only be elected from particular families, and so it went. Uh, but Catholic monarchy, you have Catholic monarchy, you have Christian monarchy, you have non-Christian monarchy. Uh, that's on the one hand. Then on the other, you've got whether or not the monarchy will be effective or executive
Yeah.
or purely figurehead.
Yeah.
And I would say that even the purely figurehead version has advantages, not as many, but some, over a republic.
Yeah.
Uh, and to be honest with you, if you took the biggest non effective, the biggest ceremonial non Christian monarchy in the world today, the Empire of Japan,
Mm.
does anybody really think Japan would be better off as a republic? I mean, they have a lot of problems, God knows, but
They're worse than us. I've been saying this. They're
oh yeah.
just.
But if you got rid of the emperor, what would they have left? Just politicians with their little mouths
Yeah.
on both sides of them.
Yeah, I mean, the West at least has some sort of shadow of Christianity or something there, but like Japan, they've just weaponized people's vices and their animal instincts against each other, and
It's really frightening.
it's unbelievable, really.
And,
It's
and
horrible.
what the only thing they have left really is the pieces of Shinto and Buddhism, and those are all incarnate in the emperor.
Ah,
He's at the apex of both systems in Japan. You get rid of him, and again.
hmm.
So, to answer your question, monarchy is the best policy.
I'm gonna spend some time. I'm gonna hype up Charles a little bit. I'm gonna talk about this.
I don't need a lot of hyping right now.
No, I'm gonna hype you up.
Oh.
You know, I think Charles's your promotion of monarchy, I feel like, has hit a next level, especially with the Blessed Karl book. You know, he kind of obviously got on the map a long time before this. You know, Puritan's Empire was a step up, and all this and that, and then Star Spangled Crown, obviously, is an incredibly unique book. And we thought it was going to tap into a lot of people's imaginations, and it did. It did. But I think Blessed Karl is an even more effective tool, the Blessed Karl book, because it's less work on people's imaginations.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, okay, this is a blessed.
Well, it actually happened.
This actually happened, and so your imagination, it's very easy to sort of transpose a what if.
Yeah.
You know, if we had someone like that, and to long for a historical type of person, such as Blessed Karl.
It's true, and of course, another thought came to mind too. You can look at the Habsburgs today, or you can look at the Bourbon, you can look at any dispossessed royal house, or you could look at the king in England, or the king of Spain, or any queen of Denmark, any reigning figurehead, and say, we want more out of them. Well, okay, we want more out of them. What are we really asking?
We want monarchy.
Well, yes, but let's break it down a little further.
Okay, yeah.
We're asking them to be Aragorn.
Well, that's true.
That's a hell of a lot to ask out of anybody. And if that weren't bad enough, the last time we had such a figure, it was Blessed Emperor Karl, and look what happened to him.
That's true.
He was destroyed, literally, by the forces of goodness. Now, imagine that you were one of his descendants. Would you really want to go through that for the sake of who? You would basically require one of these people to have all of Carl's faith in God and in his own divinely called vocation. And remember, everybody's telling them they're not divinely called. Everybody's attacking them constantly.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to throw their lives away for these people? Why would they do that? Now, if one of them did do that, he'd be a hero. But it's easy to want other people to be heroes. How many of us would heroically stand beside him? The answer in 1918 and 1920 and 1921 was some, but not nearly enough. So instead, people got something, or as they put it in the Bible, a king after their own heart. Not a king. And then they got Hitler. And then they got communism. And now they're getting Soros. Or Putin.
Soros?
Soros, our master, or the epitome of our...
Whoa, conspiracy theories.
No,
Whoa.
love. Love wins.
Oh, man.
You know, some years ago, there was a movie that came out about voodoo in Haiti called The Serpent of the Rainbow.
Okay.
Now, that refers to motifs in the voodoo religion of Haiti. But we could just... The Serpent of the Rainbow, you know, modern politics is more the moron of the rainbow.
Wow.
The moron of the rainbow, politics in the 21st century. Woo-hoo. These, by the way, one of our viewers has called these the waves of the future. Ineffectual flailing around. You know, it's all so awful. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, whether or not the world is going to hell in a handbasket, which it may be, Christmas is coming. So, we have to drag our attention away from the insanity and foulness of those who own us and look at the bigger picture. That star of beauty beyond even the rack of Mordor that Samwise saw shining up there, realizing that the shadow was just a passing thing. We have to remember that, because if we don't, we'll despair. And of course, what the devil wants is for us to hate and to despair, so we can be like him. So don't. Let's pull ourselves together. Oh, like your friend, the self-help guy.
Not my friend. You're the one who talks about him all the time. Okay, we're not going to even get into it. Okay.
Oh, we got to breathe in. Breathe in. Let it out. Let it all settle. You don't want to do that?
No, stop it.
You know what he said, though? It was very funny. Did you see the tape I sent you?
Probably.
He was, well, basically the fellow was recounting a story of how this is a well-known self-help person today. I can't mention his name for copyright reasons. I don't want to infringe on his deal. But he told something. Usually, I watch the guy because he drives me crazy, to be honest. There's a little bit of masochism in there, I think. But he told a story that was so funny. I'm genuinely funny. Basically, he was going on about how some few years ago he had a therapist, as everyone today does, apparently. And he put it, he was telling a rather lengthy story about his childhood. When he looked over and found the therapist had fallen asleep. And he had to physically wake him up.
Wow.
And shake him. And so the guy wakes up, and of course he's very embarrassed at having done this. And as the person puts it, they parted very shortly thereafter. But he said subsequently, since he's been doing his own podcast, people have told him how much they enjoy going to sleep, listening to his stuff. So he said, you know, if you're out there, I forgive you.
Wow, so people go to sleep with those soothing thoughts.
It is soothing. I mean, I can see where it would put someone to sleep. And if you can imagine him telling a detailed story about his childhood, Don't you think you'd fall? You'd just
Yeah.
yeah, I thought you would. So I would. Anyway,
That's it for the pre-show, ladies and gentlemen. But stay tuned, full episode coming up.
It's coming, and remember, when you're going to be watching this, it'll be the 27th of November.